Our featured special guest speaker today came to us from Los Angeles, California. We're very grateful that he chose to spend a weekend with us. It's a big chunk of time and traveled a long way to be here. I first got to know him back in May at the conference of Sunday Assembly, which is the secular community movement based out of London. He was also a speaker there. He's just a wonderful human being. Bart Campolo is a very well-known name in the Christian world, as many of you know. He spent years and years in evangelical ministry, a gifted speaker, has spoken all over the country, has written books. Several years ago, he made the journey that many of us have made from religion to kind of secular free thought. And I just am so proud to count him as a new friend and colleague in what we are all doing together to kind of really change the culture by spreading the secular community movement. So let's just give a warm, warm welcome to Houston Oasis to Bart Campolo. Bart.
No, that's okay. Hello, good morning. It's working? Yeah. Oh, great. All right, I'm going to stick it on there. Is that good enough? Good. Well, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. When I was in Houston, I got to know Mike and Helen, and they started talking. They kept talking to me about this warm, wonderful group of people in the Oasis community, and I think they were talking about you, and just watching the, even during the break and stuff, it's just so good to be around people who clearly like each other. And I spent actually a lot of time around people like that. I as Mike was saying, I was an evangelical Christian kind of missionary, urban missionary for about 30 years. And it's funny because I was a very popular evangelist in that world. But in my private life, it's like in front of 10,000 people, I was cool. But in my private life, I never really wanted to proselytize anybody. And I don't know if any you can relate to that. I never really wanted to have those one-on-one, conversations with people. And I felt guilty about it, because we were supposed to. We're supposed to be winning people for Jesus. And I felt guilty about it. But the truth is, I just never wanted to come off like some obnoxious zealot trying to push my beliefs on other people. That was uncomfortable for me. I mean, if everybody paid admission and came to the big event, I'd preach to them. But the idea of like nailing somebody in private and trying to jam them up, that was hard for me. I didn't want to tell people what they ought to believe. And the funny thing about it is that I feel the same way now that I'm a secular humanist. I still don't want to jam people up. I mean, it ought to be easier for me now to talk about my feelings, my worldview with people. I've got the same values that I used to have and a much better set of reasons for them, And so it ought to be easier, but the truth of the matter is that especially with my family and friends, I still sometimes don't want to talk about it openly. Because, especially the ones that are still believers, because some of them, it upsets them. Or more of the people that I know, it makes them sad. They're sad that I'm not in that tribe anymore. It makes them sad, and I don't want to make them sad. It worries some of them. They're worried about my soul, my eternal soul. And I'm sure some of you have relationships where you feel that. You feel that from other people. And so I guess the thing is I still don't want to jam them up because I don't want to be another kind of fundamentalist. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be an atheist fundamentalist. Because you've met some of them, haven't you? Those hardcore, you better not believe in God or you're going to go to hell. A number of years ago, I used to live in Philadelphia. And when I lived in Philadelphia, I used to ride the subway to work. And you don't have a subway here in Houston, do you? No, you barely have a bus. But I used to take the subway to church, and one day I got on the subway up in North Philadelphia, and you know, it was funny because like commuting the way I did, I lived in the inner city, I worked in the inner city, so when I was on the subway, I was usually the only person of not color on the subway, on the line that I was on, which was no problem because nobody's talking to anybody on the subway, anybody. Everybody would get on the subway and get out their newspaper or their book or whatever they were doing. You just kind of keep to yourself. So I got on the subway, get on, shut down. Subway pulls out, gets to the next station, and the doors open on the subway car. And this woman gets on the car. It's a crowded subway car, but this woman gets on the car, on the subway, wearing a sandwich board sign that says, she's dressed all in white. White shoes, white dress, white gloves, white hat. And on her subway sandwich board sign it says, repent, burn. And she gets on, she doesn't even sit down. She can't because she got the sign. And so she just grabs the pole in the middle of the car and she just stands there looking at everyone. And everybody got real quiet on the subway. She's just looking around. And the doors closed and the subway car pulled out of the station. And after about 3 seconds, she yelled at the top of her lungs, "This train is going to hell!" And then she pointed and she said, "And you're all going to hell on it." I had no idea. And then she started talking. And you've had street preachers and stuff, and she just went off, you know, you're all, and she said, because you're evil. You're sinners and you're evil, and if you don't repent and give your lives to Jesus, you will burn in hell for eternity. She went on like that. And then she paused, and then she started looking around the car for a specific victim. You know, I mean, if you've ever, you know, I was a preacher. Sometimes you look for somebody, you. Do you know? And she's looking around, and everybody in the car they were smart. People just didn't make eye contact. They looked away. They were down. But I got caught. I was fascinated. I was watching, and she nailed me. And she said, "You, do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior?" And I said what every one of you would have said. "Yes, ma'am, I do." Yes, ma'am. I mean, hey, and I grew up in the church, so I wanted to totally, I was like, washed in the same blood as you are, ma'am. And she said, "No, you're not. You're not a Christian." She said, "If you were a Christian, you would be proselytizing people. You would be telling people the good news. You would be trying to rescue them from the fires of hell. But there you are reading your newspaper. You're a sinner, and you're going to hell." She just went on like that for about 5 minutes. Until the train pulled into the next station. When the trains pulled into a couple stations, she pulled in a station, and then as quickly as she got off, she got off. She walked off the train. And when the doors closed again, when she got off, the entire subway car exhaled at the same moment. Like, oh! That was tense. And then what was funny was, after she got off, we were all best friends after that. Right? Everyone was like, "Oh my God, do you believe that?" And everyone's looking at me, "Oh, white boy, she got you." And we all started talking. And the funny thing was, that as we, you know, could you believe that? And everybody had a story about somebody in their family that was like that. You know, oh, I got an aunt, and she's into Amway, boy. And I tell you, you can't shut her. You know, and somebody else was like, "Yeah, I got a friend, he's into, you know, CrossFit. No, that's all he ever talks about. You know, AA. Oh, yeah, you know, everything, 12 steps to your front door. You know, and Nutrisystems." Somebody said, I got a cousin who's a vegan. And we all felt sorry for them because that's the worst. And what's funny was because we're all swapping stories about people that show up at Thanksgiving and nail you or leave tracks in your car or whatever that is. And it was funny because a couple of people in the car said, "You know, I'm a Christian." And they said, "That's not like," and they said, "You know, I've got people that do that to me." And it was funny because when the people said, "I'm a Christian," they said, "Really, you're a Christian like that?" They said, No, I'm not like that. And I remember one of the guys said to the guy who said Christian, he said, "So wait, like, do you talk to God? Like, do you actually hear voices of God when you're praying? And the guy said, no, it doesn't work like that. And like, we're riding down the track, and this guy's sharing about, like, what it's like for him to pray and what he thinks is happening in prayer. And everybody's sharing all this stuff. And as I'm listening to this conversation and participating in it, I feel sorry for the lady. Because there she was trying to get everybody to think about their ultimate values and the meaning of life and what the destiny of their soul was. And she totally missed it, but as soon as she got off the train, it was all happening. See, because that woman, she wanted to save all of humanity, but she didn't know a thing about people. See, because if she'd have stayed on the train long enough, what she would have figured out is that nobody wants to be hit over the head with your worldview. Nobody wants to be slammed with, you got to believe this or you need to believe that. But people are really interested in how you live. I mean, nobody wants you to jam them with their worldview, but people really want to know, like, why you do what you do. And what's funny is the more they know you, like on that train, we were instant friends because we had a group suffering experience. And even though we didn't know each other very well, we were instantly interested in each other. Really, how does that work for you? What about that? Oh, tell me more. They're interested in how you live, or maybe at least how you're trying to live, what you're trying to do. And what I find is that the more that they know you, and the more they know that you're interested in them, the more interested people get in you. Have you noticed this? You show interest in somebody else, they show interest in you. And so I guess I know a lot of you are excited about this thing. You're excited about having come out of really repressive lives and into a place of freedom, a place where your values are expressed, a place of friendship and community, and you want to share that with other people. You want to draw other people in. And I guess what I would tell you is, if you want to share the good news of secular goodness, you're going to have to build more relationships, because that's the context in which this kind of stuff gets shared. If you want to buy billboards, you do all you want. You can print T-shirts, and they're nice, and they're fun, and they spark conversations. But ultimately, the T-shirt isn't going to get anybody interested in Oasis. It'll get them interested in you, and then you're going to have to talk to them. You're going to have to build some relationships. And I got to tell you, it doesn't necessarily always take a long time to build relationships with people. I mean, sometimes you can build a relationship on an airplane. Build a relationship on a bus. Like it's not like you have to build these long-term friendships. You just have to connect with people in a way that you show interest in them and they become interested in you. But here's the thing I want to tell you is, even if you have people that are interested in your life, they're still generally not interested in a long-term philosophy lesson. You know what I mean? Like, they want to know, what makes you tick, but they don't want like a long, like, systematic explanation of your worldview. They just kind of want to know why you do what you do. You're into yoga? Why? What do you get out of that? You know, like, you volunteer at the food bank? How'd you get into that? You love the Houston Rockets? Why? They never win the championship. I mean, I'm just saying. What'd you say? I'm going to hell? Yeah.
Sacred things here.
That's right. You sell insurance? How'd you get into that? You drive a cab? Why? Like, ultimately, what people want to know is, like, because, like, you sell insurance for a reason. And it may not be because you love insurance. It may be because you need to make money. And you're like, well, what do you need money for? Oh, well, that's how I support my family. Oh, so your family's your bottom line? Yeah, that's kind of what I care about. Those are the people I love the most in the world. I'd do anything for them. You're like, oh, now I know a little bit about what makes you tick, why you do what you do. And people are interested in that. And most of the time, they don't want your philosophy, but they're interested in your life and what makes you tick. But most of the time, even if they're interested in what makes you tick, they want it in 100 words or less. Have you noticed this? It's like if people say, how you doing? And they're like, they're interested, but not that interested. And so, in a real sense, to be a good communicator of secular goodness, to be a good communicator of a worldview that is positive and compassionate, all these core values, you've got to be able to communicate. You don't need a lecture format, you need an elevator speech. You've heard of an elevator speech, right? You got like 15 seconds to tell me what you're about here. Yeah. I mean, that's why I don't call myself an atheist. Because it's not because, it's because it's too distracting. Like if I call myself an atheist, I'm going to spend the next 90 words explaining what I mean by that, and that it doesn't mean that I hate you or think you're stupid. And that's just too distracting for me. Like, and the problem is that telling you I'm an atheist doesn't communicate anything about what matters to me. It only communicates what doesn't matter to me. And so it's not that I think it's a wrong word. It's just not an efficient word. See, ultimately what I want to communicate to people when they say to me, like, what are you about? What's your bottom line? Is I want to say, like, look, you want to know why I do what I do? Why I work with college students? Because I became pretty convinced at some point in my life that this life was the only life that we have. I really became convinced that this was it. I'm a naturalist. I don't think there's anything beyond this. And if this is the only life I have, I became obsessed with how do I make the most of it. And I studied around how a lot of different people were spending their lives and how at the end of their lives, what people regretted and what they were glad for. And I came to the conclusion that the people that feel the best about their lives are people who have invested themselves in loving relationships. And who have done work that they feel like makes the world a better place. And who have sought out like positive emotions, who have really tried to be happy, who have really tried to have fun when they can. There were people that pursued feeling good, and they cultivated in themselves a sense of wonder at the universe, like a sense of kind of gratitude, like I'm so lucky to be alive. Isn't, sort of like this is all there is? And you're like, yes, and it's amazing. When you saw people that were really, they continued to want to learn, and they continued to want to understand the world around them, and they were amazed by the stars, or by the human body, or by the way in which our relationships form out. Those people always seemed to me at the end of their lives to be the ones that said, you know what, I feel pretty good about the way I invested my life. That's it. I think this is the only life I have. I want to make the most of it, and I'm pretty convinced that the way to do that is by cultivating loving relationships and doing work that matters, cultivating a sense of gratitude. Short. I can do that on an airplane. But I got to tell you something, especially down here in the Bible Belt, because you are, right? You know this, right? You didn't like this everywhere else. But down here in Baptist land, if you really want to communicate your values, you're going to need more than an elevator speech. You're going to need a living embodiment of those values. Because the people you're talking to, they have a living embodiment of their values, don't they? Yeah, they have churches and missions, projects, and all this stuff. They have something that says, you want to know what I believe? Look at this. Look at this TV show. Look at this thing. You're going to need a living embodiment of your values if you want anybody to really understand. And that's what a community like this one is so amazing for. Like I don't know if you feel lucky today, but you are very fortunate to have a community like this to share with each other. There are so many people that have the same values that you do, and they don't have a group of people to come together with who share those values and who celebrate those values and who help them build up those values. This is an amazing thing you've got going here. Like, I got to tell you something. In all of Los Angeles, I don't know a group of people that meet around these kind of values on this kind of regular basis. This is a huge deal. See, because you know how they always say a picture is worth 1,000 words? I got to tell you something. When it comes to communicating your values with people, you can talk and talk and talk, or you can get it all the way down to a good elevator speech, but ultimately people don't really understand your values until you can show them. See, this is what I'm talking about. See, this is a group of people, and we treat each other this way. And when we get together, we do this, like we do food drives. We help out at the homeless shelter. Like we say we care about the world, and this is the way we express that. And yeah, the group of people I hang around with, I brought a neighbor, and he's a little bit awkward, my neighbor. And I was worried, but boy, they just surrounded him. And everybody made him feel like he just fit in, like he was accepted. See, like, you can have a value that says be accepting and be accepted, and I don't believe you until you can show me a group of people that genuinely do it. And that's what this is so amazing for. I mean, you say, like, did he come all the way from Los Angeles to tell us, like, we're amazing? On some level, yes. But because the thing is that all over the place, I meet people that have misconceptions about what life would be like if they gave up God. And a lot of the reasons they stay in these repressive communities is because they're scared that there's nothing out there for them. And the only way they would know that there was something out there for them is if they encountered people like you who could express, I'm out of that and I'm into this and it's fine. But I want you to be good at communicating that, and you can't communicate that just as an individual. You need a community to communicate that. The truth is, though, you don't just need this community for them. The truth is, most of us need this community for us, right? Like, 'cause the truth of the matter is, it's not just that it's hard to express our values, it's really hard to live up to them, right? I mean, it's hard to be a good person. And what I would suggest is that from all that I've studied with psychologists and evolutionary biologists and neuroscientists and sociologists, what they would say is that it's almost impossible to live up to your values alone. That people only are able to maintain any kind of code, any kind of value system collectively. That's how we're tribal, we're a pack animal. This is the way we operate. And so a community like this one doesn't just express your values, it helps you to live them out. You say you want to be accepting, but sometimes it's hard to be accepting. But then you're in a community of people where that's the value, and you go like, okay, like, it amplifies my values to be with other people that share them. It inspires me to live up to those values. Sometimes I'm not feeling very warm. I come here and somebody gets up and gives a talk about relationships, and I go like, yeah, I ought to be warmer. You see, I guess in some level, being a part of a community like this one, to be honest with you, it's an expression not only of your values, but it's an expression of human weakness. It's an act of humility to come here. It's an act of saying, like, you know what? I can't do this by myself. I struggle. Life is hard, and I need some people to support me to live the way I want to live. I need some people to inspire me to be the kind of person I want to be. Yeah, it's an expression of humility. This is a place where you can share your struggles honestly. I mean, that woman gets up here, and she's talking. Amarette gets up and talking. And, like, that was a hard thing for her to do, especially at the beginning. You know that, right? But this was a place you could do it. This is a place that it could happen. It's a place where you can share your struggles, and I can share my struggles, and be accepted. But it's not just that. It's also a place where people will give me tools. I mean, she shared her struggle, but then at the end, she's sort of like, here's something that's worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. And I can hear it from her because she was honest. And not everybody has that in the world. Being a good person is hard. It's easy to say. It is hard to do. And a community like this one makes it a lot easier. And you say, well, but I don't need a community. A lot of people say to me, I'm not a joiner. I don't want to be part of a community. Like, I have my friends, and that's enough. And I got to tell you something, like, friends and community are two different things. I'm glad you have friends. If you have friends, that's great. I got a lot of friends too. But you can have your friends and they're spread out all over the place. A community is a place where you have friends in common. Where I know you and I know him, but he knows you. And we all know each other. And what happens in a community is different, because in a community, we can talk about each other. And you say, hell no, that's why I left church. I don't want that. But I got to tell you something. Talking about each other is the center of what a community is all about. Because I'm not talking about gossip. See, when people who love each other talk about each other, what they say is, hey, did you hear about Bill? He lost his job. Yeah, what do you think we can do about that? Like, you think we ought to invite him over for dinner? Or do you know anybody like that could help Joey out? You know, Sarah's husband, he just broke his leg. You think we should get some food and take it over there? See, in the community, we talk about each other. We talk about how we can help each other, how we can support each other. Sometimes it's not so. It's not all negative stuff. You say, "Hey, hear about Joey? Yeah, he got into Princeton. Joey got into Princeton," and everybody goes, "That's amazing! One of our guys, somebody from Oasis, is smart enough to go to Princeton. I had no idea." And we celebrate together. And because you know him, or you know her, and I know her, and we all know her, when somebody thrives in a community like this one, it lifts us all up. We all get to celebrate it together because we care about each other. It's like a family in a way. Especially important for secular people. So many of us lost our families when we came out, right? Came out gay, came out secular, and you lose people. But in a place like this, you gain people. And people who get together regularly, naturally. And here's the funny thing, is like whether they feel like it or not. I mean, I know some of you didn't want to come here this morning. I know it. You woke up and you're like, you know what, I actually don't want to feel like coming. Sort of the same way when a lot of us were in church, we didn't feel like going. But we went, and you came because your wife was coming or your husband was coming, or because you'd promised that you'd help set up the coffee or the tech. Or you know, like, right? I mean, like, you had to come. I mean, I'm looking at the headphones. You had to be here. Didn't matter. Right? And the thing about that, you say, gosh, I don't want to feel that kind of obligation. When you feel that kind of responsibility to the other members of the group, that's when you know it's a community. That's a good obligation. That's what makes a community transformative. Is when I know I'm a part of a group of people that feel like they kind of have to like me, I'm safe. When I'm a part of a community where people do what they're supposed to do for each other, I can bring my friend and say, you know what? I need you all to be nice to my friend. He's a lonely guy. He doesn't have a lot. And I can bring him to a place like this, and I can know that we're all going to love him together. Because that's what you're supposed to do. It says it on the sign. Now listen, I should stop, shouldn't I? Yeah. Okay, Mike's going like, please stop. Please stop. I've got a killer story that I could... No, I'm not going to tell it. No, it's so good. It's so good. But afterwards, if you'd like, I'll tell you the story. After we're done. Because I'm out of time. I want, right?
Like, you can tell it individually, you can tell the whole gang.
I could tell it individually, one after one. You just line up, I'll tell you a good story. I mean, or I can tell it to you right now. Okay. All right, it's just a good story. Okay, the first community like this, the first non-religious community I was ever part of was in Cincinnati. Okay, a bunch of friends of mine and I, we all moved into this ghetto neighborhood in Cincinnati called Walnut Hills. And we all lived next door to each other. We bought a bunch of houses and fixed them up. But we weren't gentrifiers. Like, we moved in for the purpose of connecting with all the people around us and just trying to create a supportive community in a place where it was really rough. Okay? And so I was the gregarious one, so everybody else was like there. I was the one who went out and met everybody and was up on the corner and went to the homeless shelters and stuff like that. Got to know a bunch of people in the neighborhood. And finally, all my introverted neighbors said, listen, Bart, it's cool that we all moved here, but you're the only one that knows anybody. And my wife said, yeah, why don't you invite everybody over to dinner one night? So there's like 4 families of us, and so I invited like 30 of my neighbors, people I knew from the neighborhood. And this is a rough crowd. I mean, I got to tell you something. Like these were not like ex-drug addicts. We weren't like everybody's still working. And so everybody comes to this. So I invite all these people to dinner. And the first night they came to dinner, like nobody knew anybody, and it was a very tough time. Like the only person everybody knew was me, and I couldn't keep 30 conversations going, and it was over in about 15 minutes. But everybody came back the next week. And we kept doing it. And eventually, just like you guys have learned how to be together, and you're learning how to care about each other, and what works and what doesn't, and how much music, and when to cut the speaker off, you know. And we became a kind of a connected group. And in that community, we would have dinner together every week. But there was this one guy I knew in the neighborhood that I could never get to come to dinner. The guy's name was Danny. And Danny was a guy I met up on the street corner. And he was one of those guys who was out there with the bottle and the brown paper bag drinking every day. He was in and out. He was kind of homeless, semi-homeless. Sometimes he would crash with people. Sometimes he would have a place. Most of the time he was homeless. And I got to know Danny. We got to be pretty good friends just hanging out on the street. And the thing about Danny was like, he was a mess, man. He was like 50 years old, about my age. But he'd been in and out of prison. He'd been in and out of jail. He'd been in and out of homeless shelters. He'd been shot 3 times in his life. He'd been stabbed 3 times. He had no teeth. He had been addicted to alcohol since he was 15 years old. He had been off and on heroin. You know, every relationship he'd ever had with a woman had ended in violence. He was functionally illiterate. Like, I'm not, the story, this is not a good story because I'm going to tell you, and he came into our community, and we surrounded him with care, and we got him tutoring, and now he's a president of a bank. My friend Danny was broken, and I just got to be honest with you, he's broken beyond repair. A guy like that's not going to get fixed. And that's why I was glad I kept inviting him to dinner, because he was too much for me. He's a hard guy to be with sometimes. But eventually, after about a year, I convinced him to come to dinner with the group. So he comes in to dinner with the group. And it's like I said, like, loving broken people, it's like a team sport. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's too much for you. But that's why it's great to be a part of a group like this, because you can bring somebody, and there's a lot of people to spread them around. You can kind of pass them around. And everybody gave him a touch. Everybody was like, Danny, good to see you. Like, people knew him from the neighborhood. How you doing, man? Glad you came, and stuff like that. So we're all eating dinner. And he loved it. And he came back the next week, and he came back the next week. The third week he was there, I was giving a little talk after dinner. I used to give little talks, very small things. And I was just telling the story of Charles Blondin, the tightrope walker, which probably, if you grew up in church, you've heard this story. You know Blondin, right? Yeah, you know it. Mike's like, ah. You know. Do you know Blondin? Okay. It's a simple story. Blondin was the first tightrope walker to walk across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. And he did it like around the turn of the century. And what happened was it was illegal to try because people had tried it and they had died. So Blondin, you couldn't try it. So Blondin strung his tightrope in the middle of the night, sort of like the guy on the World Trade Center. He strung it in the middle of the night. And when the morning came up, he was already out there on the tightrope. And so then the authorities couldn't really stop him because, like, what are they going to do? Like, get off the rope, you know. Like, it's dangerous, you know. So he's out there walking across the tightrope, and the word went out that Blondin was on the tightrope. And people gathered from on the American side and the Canadian side to watch this. It was a big deal. Thousands of people showed up, and Blondin, it took him like more than 2 hours. He inched his way from the American side to the Canadian side. And when he got to the Canadian side, there was this huge crowd gathered. And when he took the last step, they just erupted into cheers. And they were just like, you know, everybody's cheering and stuff like that. And then they started to chant his name. You know, like, Blondin, Blondin, Blondin. And evidently, according to the accounts, Blondin held up his hands with a great flourish and he silenced the crowd. And he said, I am Blondin. Which seems redundant, like they were just chanting it. You know, I am Blondin. Do you believe in me? And the crowd chanted back, we believe, we believe, we believe. He silenced them again. He said, do you believe I can walk back across the tightrope? And they chanted, we believe, we believe. He silenced them one last time. He said, do you believe I can walk back on the tightrope with a man suspended on my shoulders? And the crowd in a frenzy said, we believe, we believe. And then he said, which one of you will be that man? And he said, and the crowd went silent. And out of the 1,000 people standing there, only one man stepped forward and climbed on Blondin's back. Turned out it was his business manager. Probably saw the whole thing going to shit. You know, it's like, I got to save it. And for the next 3.5 hours, Blondin inched his way back with the guy on his shoulders. Now, I used to tell that story for the simple reason, you know, it's a great story to tell about beliefs and stuff like that, you know, because how many people said they believed in Blondin? Everybody, thousands. How many really believed in Blondin? Just one, because what you believe isn't what you say. What you believe is how you live. It's what you do. That's why I'm saying, like, people will you can say what your values are, but until you express them in a community like this one, nobody understands, nobody gets it, nobody believes you. So I was telling this story, and the thing is, when I tell the story, was telling the story to the group, we got to the point where the crowd was chanting, Blondin, Blondin, and I just couldn't resist. I just said, like, I wish people would chant my name that way. And I looked at Danny. Danny was sitting there. He had never heard a story like this. He'd never been in church or anything like that. I said, Danny, don't you wish people would chant your name that way? He said, yeah, man, that would be cool. And I said to the group, there's only about 30 or 40 of us in the room. I said, hey, you want to give Danny a thrill? And he was like, yeah. I said, all right, Danny, stand up here. And I said to everybody, okay, start out real soft. And everyone went, Danny, Danny, Danny. And then I said, louder. And they went, Danny, Danny, Danny. And then I said, do it really loud. And everybody's cheering, Danny, Danny. And Danny's standing up there. And this huge smile comes over his face. I mean, this guy's never been the center of attention anywhere, right? This guy's been treated like a piece of garbage most of his life. And there he is standing there, and they're going, Danny, Danny. And all of a sudden, he puts his arms out, and he leans his head back. And he's just standing there like this. And the crowd, and they just kept going. And finally I said, okay, Danny, how was it? He said, that was cool. And he sat down. Now, what I didn't tell you about Danny was he had been homeless for the last year. And I had been trying to get him into housing. And every time I would take the paperwork to get him into HUD housing, he would say, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. It's too much responsibility. I said, Danny, I'll pay the rent. It's $25 a month. I got you covered. He said, I can't do it. I can't do it. On cold winter nights, I would wake up and my wife would say, he's out there, you know. I'd say, I know he's out there. There's nothing I can do. The night after the blindness story, 6 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock on my front door. I open it, it's Danny. He's standing there. He says, hey, Bart, I'm ready to do that paperwork on the housing now. You see what happened, don't you? I couldn't be enough for him. But when you have 40 people saying you're valuable, somebody can believe it. There are some kinds of compassion that you can only express collectively. The funny thing is, when I tell that story to my Christian friends, they totally get what my secular humanism is about. They go, oh, that's what you mean by secular humanism? Reaching out to people, loving them that way? Oh, that sounds like what we're into. They go, yeah, it's remarkable. We like what you're into. If you want people to know what you're about, but you don't want to be an atheist fundamentalist, you're going to need an elevator speech. You can work on that together. You're going to need an elevator speech. But you're going to need more than an elevator speech. You're going to need a community like this one. Like this one. You have no idea how lucky you are. You have no idea how much good you can do in the world if you learn how to share it. This is important. This is transformative. This could be, and I'm not kidding, this could be the thing that saves humanity when nobody can believe in God anymore. So I got 3 words for you. Go for it.